Next, we got Jordan Dash Cruz, who you may know as Stark. Then we got our hero, the hero Himmel. Everybody welcome Clifford Chapin. And then we got our star of the show. Everybody, round of applause for Malorie Rodak, Frieren herself. Thank you, thank you. How are you guys doing? How's y'all's weekend been so far? Good?
So good.
A lot of Frieren fans coming up already.
Yes, I've seen a few Frierens out there. Have you guys seen any Frieren cosplayers?
There you go, there you go.
Yes!
So I want to start with, is Frimmel? We're calling it Frimmel?
That's their couple name. I don't know if you know this. I've been calling it Frimmel. Because I really do feel like that's their couple name.
It's really, really implied in the show. And I think, they say it, they don't say it, and they kind of say, Frieren does not recognize human emotion, right? But are you guys playing it that way? Or at least Himmel's playing it that way? I don't know.
I think so. Personally, it's pretty. I would say it's pretty clear that Himmel's feelings are a certain way, and that the purpose of the story is that Frieren is learning what all of this meant. It's only after the fact that she's starting to understand the human experience, and so she's starting to see the signs and everything throughout the whole story.
Yeah, it's a lot of people ask me, don't you wish they would have ended up together? And I'm like, well, yes, but I love the way the story's told because it just, so wonderfully plays with time, and thinking about, the relationships and the friendships you've had in your own life, it really makes you think.
I think the series so far is very focusing on Frieren kind of having those, they do the flashback and then they go back to Frieren and be like, I'm learning something right now that I should have learned 50 years ago.
I didn't catch this 50 years ago. I didn't catch this 80 years ago.
And the memes that come out on that very topic are just hilarious to me. It's half the fun of the show.
So I watched this show blind. I didn't know anything about it. So I just put it on. Me and my daughter watched it together. She didn't understand. She had pretty colors. It was pretty colors.
It is gorgeous.
It's very pretty. What is it that attracted you guys when you guys were casting the show? What were you most excited about it? I'll start with you. I'll start Jordan.
Okay. So I actually didn't really know too much about the show outside of a couple of friends being like, yeah, Frieren's supposed to be the big show this season. And I was like, all right, that's cool. But just being the actor, I was like, if I get called in, cool. And if I don't, on to the next, I guess. So I ended up getting the call because Stark doesn't show up till a little bit later on. I think he shows up episode 6 or something like that. So they had already cast the show, so I wasn't really watching too much or anything like that. I was just, busy working on whatever it was that I was working on. They call me in. I always tell this story. They called me in. They sent me an email. They're like, hey, are you available for 15 minutes? They didn't tell me I was voicing Stark. They're just like, are you available? Yeah. Great, cool. I probably die, and then that's it. So I go in. Jade, who's the director, tells me, hey, you're going to be voicing Stark, and I still didn't know what that meant. I was like, cool. So I go home, I tell my wife, I'm like, hey, I guess I got casted Frieren. I'm Stark, I don't know what that means. And she goes, Jordan, that's one of the main characters of the show. I'm like, no, it's not. And then she showed me the promo art, and I was like, oh, maybe you're right. Cool. For me, to answer your question in a long-winded way, because I love to talk apparently, when I finally got a chance to actually be a part of the show and get a chance to watch it every week, because I do like to try and watch the Japanese to see what's going on. It felt like it was one of those shows where everything just hit the mark. The animation was gorgeous, the music was killer, the character personalities and the way that they just built on humanizing them to where the audience could put themselves in the character's shoes, or they could choose a character and see a little bit of themselves in the character. That's what I really enjoyed about it. It felt very humanized. It didn't feel like it was trying to be over the top. It really felt like a journey of folks that maybe didn't even know each other coming together and becoming friends and essentially becoming family and just becoming a party. So at least that's for me. So sorry for the long-winded answer, but that was what stood out to me.
What about you, Christopher?
Yeah, I mean, similar, I would say. I was working with Jade, the director, on a different show, and we had just had a little break, so I was like, what's this new thing you're working on? She's like, oh, it's like a Lord of the Rings fantasy kind of show. I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, that I'm into that, like, immediately. And then time goes by, and I got booked for something and came in, and Sein starts off in a quicksand pit. And so I'm like, well, this guy's going to die immediately, is what I thought. And no, he got to stick around. Nice little run. It was like 6 or 7 episodes of him kind of being the dad comedy relief. And so I hope we get to see him maybe again in January, but as season 2 comes out. But what a wonderful show to be a part of. I've talked to for such a sweet show, it's incredibly divisive. That's what I've noticed. Like, people will come up to talk to me about it. They're like, there's still a segment of people that really have like strong opinions about it. Like, it's such a likable show, you know. I got some of the demon stuff or whatever, and I don't know all of that, but it's one of these weird shows too, where it's like you can sell it to people a lot of different ways because the fights are some of the best fights, and you would not necessarily expect it based on what you are watching in those first early episodes. But some of the fights in this show are like up there with Solo Leveling for me, anyway, in terms of just watchability. Like, I'm gonna watch this and recommend it to somebody. That's the easy recommend for Solo Leveling. It's like, the fights are incredible, but I'm like, the fights are actually incredible in Frieren. Like, you really so there's a lot to like. The music, of course, I love. I have it on my Spotify playlist, so I just throw it in all the time. It's great when I'm driving. It's been a wonderful show. What about you, Clifford?
Okay, so contrary to these two, I did die immediately. So I got the message, like, hey, you've been cast as Himmel in Frieren, and I was like, I got a message that was like, they want to cast you as Himmel in Frieren. I had no idea anything about it. I hadn't heard about the show. I didn't know anything, so I like Googled it, because I always try to make sure that the role is something I actually want to do. And I saw that the seiyuu for Himmel is Nobuhiko Okamoto, who also voices Katsuki Bakugo in My Hero Academia. And I went, oh no, he's probably going to scream all the time. And but I was like, but I got bills, you know, so I guess I'm going to do it. And so I accepted, and much to my surprise, that was not the case. He does not scream very much at all. Pleasant for me. And yeah, and then I died. And I was like, cool, well, that's probably the end of that. And then it wasn't. I keep coming back in the show. So it's such a great series. I think I was like 7 episodes into the recording on the show, and I was like, I feel like I need to watch this. This show's really good. And so I went home, I told my wife, I was like, I think I'll watch this show that I'm working on. And she was like, okay. And so we watched it and like immediately fell in love with it. Like, it was so good. The demon episodes were so good. The fights and everything, like Chris was talking about, the fights are amazing. That one shot of Stark putting on his like coat, I was like, the animators did not need to go that hard. I'm like, I gotta draw this coat. But they sure did.
I may or may not have tried to put my coat on like that.
Oh my god. I was like, this is insane. I can't believe. It was my one fear for season 2, was I was like, I want a season 2, but I don't want season 2 if it's animated by someone else. Like, I want Madhouse back. And thank God they're coming back. So I'm so excited for season 2.
I gotta say, one of my favorite shots was the Stark, where, you know, Frieren's on the rooftop, or not the rooftop, the canyon top, and Stark is down there with the dragon. You're like, well, dragons are smart. He's actually scared of Stark, and you get like the whole moment where Stark is like, you find out he's not a fraud anymore, and you're like, he's the real deal, because like, he's like the Jedi of the group.
The shot of Stark fighting the dragon, where he's on the side of the dragon's face, I was like, this is like the coolest cinematography ever. Like, this is the coolest thing. Oh my god.
It was pretty epic, like watching that and recording, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, and I get to voice that. That's so cool.
That was so cool. What about you, Malorie? What attracted you to this?
You know, I remember the moment where I got the text, similar to Cliff's story, where it was like, they want to cast you as Frieren in a show called Frieren, and I was like, oh my gosh, a title character. I mean, I feel like for a lot of voice actors, that's a goal to have a role like that. So I hadn't heard about it, and I started Googling immediately and watching all of the, OG manga fans and how hyped they were for the show. And I think what attracted me to it was the fact that it's set after the big event. I just feel like you don't see many stories that are set like that, where it's like, okay, here's the big battle where all this happened, but then what happens to those characters afterwards? Like, that to me was such an interesting premise that you just don't see very often in anime, but in any really kind of, storytelling. So I started, watching the YouTube videos and everything, and I was like, okay, people are really hyped for this. The manga seems incredible. I started picking up some of the volumes as well, just to get more familiar with it. And then, I mean, little did I know how much I would truly just fall in love with the story. It's sometimes you get cast in anime and you're like, okay, this isn't exactly my genre, but this is just 100% something I love. It's, like Christopher said, Lord of the Rings style, almost like Studio Ghibli. I know that's a high bar to compare it to, but it feels like every scene you could just take a screenshot of it and, put it on your wall, and it would be beautiful artwork, and the music and the story. It just has everything, so I'm pinching myself that I get to be involved in it.
I was talking to a friend about it. I said, I feel like we're watching the epilogue. And I was like, but it's like genius because, they still go back. You're still watching Himmel's Heroes party, right? And I was like, you get the little flashbacks, you get that. But I'm like, from a creator standpoint, it's genius because if they ever wanted to do a prequel.
A movie? Anyone? A movie? That would be so good.
To see it all go through, simultaneously, all episodes to like little flashbacks, that'd be awesome.
You guys would be in the movie for like 2 minutes as Frieren was like, there was this one time, and then it flashed back. And
It's like The Hobbit. It's like when, Frodo's at the very beginning, like...
Instead of flashbacks, you get flash forwards. How about that?
Okay. That'd be cool. So what kind of, and I'll start with you, Malorie, again. What kind of headspace did you have to get into to be Frieren?
Gosh, I feel like Frieren is a really complex character where, she's very powerful, but she's also kind of silly and sleepy and almost like a little bit childlike. Like I was reading an article recently where they talked about the ages of elves in the series, and how in many ways Frieren is kind of a child in the age of elves. So she has, this power, this calmness about her, but also this silliness and the sleepiness. So she's a complex character to voice. I think there's always the challenge of you don't want to go so deadpan that there's no levels in the performance where it's like, okay, this is kind of boring. But you don't want to go too over the top where it's like it doesn't match a character that's been alive for 1,000 years and has seen so much in her lifetime. So it was really interesting to sort of get in that headspace. And I think, a lot of the media that we've consumed, like, Lord of the Rings or even like D&D, games like that, sort of influenced, I think, my performance in the end. I don't know, it was hard, especially that first scene when you die, like I was literally crying in the words. I really was. It was so emotional, and I think Jade, our director, we worked really hard on that scene just to make sure to have the emotions right in it, because it is such a crucial scene.
I'm struggling to remember exactly what the framing of the question is.
What kind of headspace did you have to get into?
Headspace. Okay, so for me, it was pretty funny because Jade wanted to just kind of let me play a soft boy character, and so we were really focused on like how gentle the way that Himmel speaks is. And one of my favorite things that she told me was, this will totally date all of us, but like in the 90s, in the early 2000s, every R&B song had the guys go like, girl, like whatever. And she was like, every time you say Frieren's name, I want it to be like saying, girl. And so like, that's why all of them are like,
you do that really well.
Like, Frieren. Like, just like this really gentle like thing. Yeah, so that's always been the focus. It's what I always go back to. Sometimes even when I'm in the booth, I'm like, girl. So that's really just it, is getting in the headspace of that thing of like, especially because Himmel is so good, that like, even in the face of adversity of like not being able to pull out the sword and stuff like that, like he still focuses so much on the positive aspect of it. Like, well, then I'll just become a hero that doesn't need the sword. You know, like there's so much incredible stuff behind that character. So, yeah.
So for me, it wasn't too much. Like my wife, she actually told me that Shark is like the most like me character that I've ever voiced. And I want to say that I kind of just took me and kind of younged myself up a little bit. You know, Shark's around, 17, 18 years old. And being 17, 18 years old, like, you know, you have a lot of fears about growing up, a lot of like expectations that you want to prove, you know, to those around you. You know, Shark's whole backstory with his family, and you know how his father treated him poorly, and how my dad treated me great, by the way, but like how his father treated him like poorly, and looked at him like he was some sort of failure compared to his older brother, and how his older brother was really the only person who believed in him at all. Even though he never really said it, he kind of showed it in like some of his actions. And Stark just goes around believing that he's this individual who's like unworthy of love, who's unworthy of really anything, because he just looks at himself as like some sort of failure. And I think that we all struggle with that from time to time. You know, we've all probably had those days where we sit there and go, man, I'm nothing. Like, you know, I'm not worth this. Nobody likes me. Like, I don't believe in myself. And he struggled with a lot of self-esteem, which I know a lot of people struggle with, you know, myself included. Even in this industry, it's like, oh man, you know, I'm not, there's no way, you know, like I'm ever going to be some big name, or I'm never going to be some sort of like people aren't going to care about me. You know what I mean? But then him actually doing what is asked of him, him staying loyal, and then we see how strong he actually is, and it's everyone else can see how strong and how loyal and how dependable he is, but he can't see it himself. And I just think that there's some beauty in that, because it's like, how many times do we do that to ourselves, where everyone else can see how strong we are, but we can't see it ourselves? So I kind of put myself in that headspace, and it felt very humanizing. And that's, I think, what I loved about the show, was the fact that every character was a character that I feel someone could relate to, and someone could say, hey, I put myself in their shoes because I struggle with self-esteem, you know, or I struggle with, you know, like with Frieren, you know, not really understanding emotions or like human, you know, interactions. So I don't know, I thought it was really cool, and that's kind of the headspace I put myself in to voice the character.
Well, that's your
Sein is a guy that he's reached a certain point in his life, and he kind of didn't pursue the things that he wanted, you know, and so he's kind of settled for some stuff. He's a talented guy, but he just didn't really have the guts, I guess, or he had rationalized why he was going to not follow what he really wanted to do. And so he became sort of a priest in a small village, and then he smokes and drinks a lot and gambles and womanizes, I guess, to make up for that, so that he could get through every day. Yeah, I mean, I started voice acting a little bit later than my peers. Like, I literally was 32 when I started doing like voice acting. I was doing TV commercials and radio stuff before that. So I kind of came into this world a little later than some people do. And so seeing his whole arc of kind of just accepting, like, whatever happens with this is just going to be what happens, but I have to do this. I have to pursue this. He's got his brother in his life that's kind of pushing him towards it. He's got some other people around him that are kind of supporting him in that way. And then there's the aspect of Guerrilla Warrior, which you may not know this, but Guerrilla Warrior is actually here today. Nazee Tarsha, the voice of Guerrilla Warrior. So if you're a big Guerrilla Warrior fan, make sure you go C to Z. But yeah, Sein, like, I think the element of Guerrilla Warrior is kind of like, it's the part of his youth and his optimism and his hope that got away from him. And so now he's going to go chase that, right? And so that means that now the party does not have a healer anymore, which also raises the stakes a lot. Because if you got a healer around, it's like, well, I guess nobody's going to die. So that's, there's a lot of narrative choices there too. But he's also kind of the dad. I play a lot of dads. He's got the dad energy, and I guess I have the dad energy, guys. If you need help with your 401k, come see me later. We can talk about it. So yeah.
Well, we have a couple of minutes for questions. Does anybody have a question for?
Misha.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll come down. I'll ask you a question. I'll come down there. If you want to meet me right here in the corner. What was it like going from deadpan to being silly? Because Frieren is like monotone at a lot of it, and then she'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I have this ring," and then I was like,
I just love those scenes where she's silly. I mean, that's probably some of my favorite parts. Like, every time she gets stuck in a mimic, like, it's always gonna make me laugh. I don't know, like, season 2, I just want more of that. Every time she's sleepy, like, come on, that is 100% me. You guys know me. Like, I am not a morning person at all. Sleepy Girl Club, yes! Yes, so I mean, all of those moments where she's just really silly, it just makes me smile. So I hope we get more of that balance, because that's the thing about the show. It's kind of hard to describe to people. Like, it's a fantasy, but it's action, but it's also romance, but it's like slice of life in a way too. It has so many things for everyone, and that's what makes it so beautiful.
"Tell us your name. What's your question?"
Hi, my name is Cassie, and I'm a huge fan of Frieren. Every single person in this show is perfect. I guess my question is, I guess it's a little weird to love characters, but like, if you could pick a song for your character, what would you pick?
They see me rolling. God, I'm not sure if this is a controversial choice, but I feel like the only song that comes to my mind rapidly is the 1,000 Years song.
My God.
You know what I'm talking about? Like, and somebody actually, now I'm thinking about it again, someone made a bunch of Twitter videos with it, like, and they were like heartbreaking, but like, I think that's the song. Like, God, I hope Frieren sees Himmel again at some point. Like,
I know. They need to be able to communicate and say the things they've never said. That's my goal.
Anybody else got a song?
I can't think of any.
I'll say Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. I just feel like Sein is finally getting a chance to be optimistic about his life and not be such a cynic. So he's hoping again. So that's a song about hope, I think.
I would have thought you'd pick like Stacy's Mom.
I don't want to steal that from Kyle Phillips. That's always his answer.
Kyle's all in on Stacy's Mom.
I feel like anything by Megan Thee Stallion. I don't know why. I just heard vibes, boss vibes. Like, yes.
I was thinking Lady Gaga for Frieren.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. I'll take that too.
And we'll end on this last question. A lot of people want to know what the update is on season 2. If you guys have anything that you could talk about.
Well, show of hands, does anyone watch the trailer that's come out for season 2? Yes! It is out there, and it doesn't reveal too much if you're like a spoiler-free type of person. There's a new song by Evan Call in the trailer, the composer, which is fantastic. So that was really exciting. But other than that, I mean, we haven't worked on it yet.
No, I think it's slated for January.
Okay.
I think, but that's all I know.
I have read ahead in the manga, and I won't spoil anything, but oh my gosh, it's going to be so good.
Yeah, they haven't really mentioned. We're the last to know.
Yeah.
So
We'll get the
when they
message.
email me and they're like, "Hey," then I'll be like, "Hey."
Hear me roll. All right, guys. Well, I'd like to thank you for coming up and talking with us. Everybody give him a round of applause.